final question to all three of you is the same. I will start with Panduka sir. Sir, can you finally tell us something about a teacher who made an impact on your life?
Well, there are so many, obviously, but I think perhaps the biggest impact would have been from a school teacher. He was also the vice principal of the school at that time. Now he's passed away. He was a very tough, difficult teacher. But towards my final year, I was able to see him at close quarters, and I saw an entirely different picture about him. And I found a lot of nice things about him, about things like fairness and things like being open to ideas, walking the talk, and being principled and stuff like that. So I thought really he was a really good role model for me to try to follow, because it made a big impression in my mind. I thought he was such a great teacher. So I would put him as number one. His name is Mr. Gunasekara. We used to call him Kataya. Kataya is like the slang for cut your hair. So he always used to tell us to cut our hair short. You know why it's short now. So we used to call him Kataya, and he used to wear white long sleeve shirts and trousers and black shoes and wear the college tie and walk around the corridor. And he always had a cane inside the sleeve. Ever ready to punish. Yes, that's right. He would just pull it out, and it will be, you are very lucky if you met him on the corridor and didn't get caned. So, that will be a day to write down in your diary. But, of course we didn't like him, but when I got closer to him, I realized the fairness in his decisions. I once saw him punishing his own nephew. So this is the corporate punishment era. So that's my the one with the biggest impact.
May I ask Prof. Saumya from you, who is the teacher that made an impact in your life? Someone you would like to remember?
There are few, very few. One was that Professor Gamlat, even though he was not in my school or in my university, he was very impactful. He changed my life, the way that I see the academic life and everything. And at the same time, there's one teacher that I have met during my school years, and he was my science teacher. But he taught me how to write, publish articles, and do all these writing skills, etc. He was a poet, even though he was teaching, science. And he has written very famous songs, still popular among the mass in Sri Lanka. One is Bomal Vemal Suunda Kapatali Amma Peukiri Suunda Galaini Evagisindu. Susata Baranin Sarasila Na Kapana Vahi Patina Dele. This Pram Mini Villasin Mata Innate Bear Nisansali. He was my teacher. He was science teacher who was writing poetry and inspiring us to and encouraging us to write. And journalism, he introduced us to journalism during our school time. He was phenomenal.
Thank you. Maitli, the same question finally to you.
So I'd like to, rather than talking about one particular teacher, I'd like to share certain qualities that I have admired most in some of my teachers and about two instances. So firstly, I would start off by saying, as I told you earlier, when you meet these wise people, you have to always try to gain as much as possible. One of which is you have to, when you like a certain quality in a person, you have to try to acquire it. That makes you a better person. So one such thing I observed when I was at medical school is Prof. Dinitha Fernando Madam. I would quote her here. So Madam is such a, Madam has, I don't know whether she is aware, whether anybody else has told her, even when she is delivering a lecture, she's so warm and motherly. Many teachers might have it, but you can obviously feel it. So that is something I always wanted to, acquire when I'm going to finally be a teacher. And then to move on, I want to recollect about Professor Shalini Madam. What I admire about, I mean, I know she's a difficult teacher, really, but then what I admire about her is the integrity. Integrity is, no matter what, you stand for the right. You stand for what is right. Whatever the argument could be coming from anywhere, even your senior, your teacher, but you stand for what is right. So that is something I admired about her. And then, of course, the medical fraternity is full of high achievers and, like stars. So I certainly admire and try to one day be as perfectionist or as a person who is having attention to so much fine details like Prof. Chang. And of course, no one can deny, I don't know whether I can ever match the curiosity that you see in Prof. Pandukar. It's like whenever you have read something and you think you are clear about it, sir somehow finds a point where you feel like, my goodness, I know nothing about this. I have to go back and start reading from the beginning. So the curiosity in him. And then two people that, I mean, when you meet them next, you think about this, whether what I told is relatable to them, right? I would want to quote Prof. Prasad Katland sir and Prof. Resni Kasim. There is a common thing that I have observed in both of these persons. They are very, very, very positive. When you talk to them, next time you see, they only talk positive things. Now, for example, in the ward, we go and complain, this person is not working, this is not happening, that is not happening. They don't join in this complaining process. They only take the matter and give constructive ideas, only positive talks. So much optimism and so much positivity. When I was a house officer, intern house officer at vascular surgical ward, I mean, always wounds, right? But look to me as non-healing, unhealable wounds. But Prof. Resni Kasim is so adamant that any wound in this world can be healed, given you satisfy about 10 aspects that sir has. So those are real positive attitudes that you have to learn. And bypassing all that, I would want to remind you two things, two sort of statements that very, very eminent teachers of mine who taught me. One is, I don't know whether sir would even remember, so I was an intern house officer at the medical prof unit, and then Prof. Saroj was the chair professor, and sir would pay, uninformed visits. Sir can come to the ward at any time. Usually, sir doesn't, I mean, you wouldn't know whether sir would come to the morning ward round, but very often sir would drop in at night. So one such night, sir came to the ward, and then one of my patients, I can still remember the patient, he was an end-stage renal failure patient. He was a very adamant patient, actually. He would even say, he would even start fights with me because he knew I'm the very junior most doctor. I'm just hanging around all day, and I'm like a drum. Everyone is coming and saying various things to me, and I'm accepting. So this is the person where I can show his power. That is the attitude that patient had. But then the nature of internship is such that whatever thing that doesn't happen in the ward is the HO's responsibility. Why is the investigation not available? It goes to a certain level. Why is this patient's hemoglobin not picking up? Aren't you giving something like that? So then I had to make sure erythropoietin is brought from his home and it's being injected and his iron stores are, optimum, like that. So this patient, I did so much. I have cried so much. I mean, I have argued with his wife as to why are you not doing this properly? This patient is not, something like that. So finally, this patient one day, because of an infection, he passed away. And that particular night, I was so upset. I have done so much, and then this patient has passed away. And we all of us, what we dream when we are at medical school is to do magic, to do wonders, right? We want to cure everything, and you'd want to do magic. So then I was so upset. Prof. Saroj is coming, and this patient has died. But something unusual was happening that day. The patient's wife and the relatives were trying to console me. It's okay, doctor. It's okay. He would never listen. You did everything you could, but he wouldn't listen. What can we do? Then Prof. Saroj took me to a side and told, I know when you start practicing medicine, there is a real, challenge of what you dream to be a doctor. But Prof. told me, you are a good doctor. When a patient you're treating has died, and the family still comes to thank you for all that you have done, then you're a good doctor. So, in other words, what does it mean? All diseases have natural history. Either diseases will heal on their own, people survived even before doctors were there, right? They will heal on their own, or patients will die. So you cannot cure all the time. You cannot do magic all the time, but you can heal all the time. Not just the patient, the entire family. You can be the healer. So that is something that sir told me very, very early in my career, and still appreciate it. And one more thing, I think you don't know this professor. This is also something very, very, that I would ever cherish, what Prof told me. So this is about Professor Diminishing Samarasinghe. You might have heard his name. So Prof used to give very interesting psychiatry lectures. Then again in the professorial appointment, Sir was supposed to teach us about the somatoform disorders, where patients come with various things that are not really, organic. Right? So what Sir told me that point was, I don't know whether you all know, as a doctor, when you meet patients, 1 in 5 patients, that is 20% of all your patients, are coming with somatoform complaints. They are not coming with what they are saying they have. Right? So how do we detect it? Prof told me, as a doctor, every day in your practice, the first question you ask from your patient could be anything. What brings you here? How are you? What's wrong with you? It could be anything. But the second question in a doctor-patient consultation always should be, what does it mean? That is, after the patient says what they came with, you wait. You let them talk. The moment you start bombarding with questions, you're going to lose track of it. And you are going to make the patient believe that he came with heart attack or myocardial infarction, and he's going to give the answers the way you want. So that is something I still cherish, and that has helped me even in the exams. You let the patient talk. To add to this, now Prof. Diminishing is a very eminent personality. When as a specialty trainee, when I went to the Ragama unit for my specialty training in psychiatry, the professor there asked me, where did you learn psychiatry from? So I said, can you name some of your teachers? And then when I said Prof. Diminishing Samarasinghe, and he was like, okay, you can stop at that. You have learned enough psychiatry, you have nothing more to train from here, you can leave. So what does that mean? Sometimes some of our teachers are our identity. Whether you have learned from them or not, our teachers are our identity. And so we should cherish all that we have.
Thank you, Maithili. What an answer, and what an evening it has been. Okay, so to wrap up, thank you so much. So